Good day, everyone. Welcome to the continuation of the series Fundamental of Subsea Drilling Operations. Um, Here we'll be looking at drilling a well, constructing a well from top to bottom, but we'll be paying very strong attention to the operations risk review. That is the risks associated to the operation. Yeah. So the outline is that we're going to be looking at how the rig will be positioned prior to the commencement of operations. We're going to be drilling a shallow gas pilot hole to de-risk the potential of having shallow gas in this environment prior to jetting the conductor on bottom and drilling the surface hole. After drilling the surface hole, we'll run the surface casing and cement it. The surface casing is going to be carrying the high pressure wellhead housing, which the BOP is going to be sitting on. And after running the BOP, we'll be drilling the intermediate hole section, run the intermediate casing, which in this case is going to be the 13 and 3/8. Then we'll be drilling the 12 and quarter inch hole section to the objective hydrocarbons, and we'll be cementing that with a 9 and 5/8 inch casing. It should be noted that this well it's a it's a vertical well, which you will see on the next slide. The water depth is about 830 meters with elevation 843. The the surface casing expected to be at now around 25 meters, and the last casing, which is going to be the expected to be production casing if this well is produced in the future, it's at 2400 meters. um, the design data, the pore pressure is extrapolated from the Eaton resistivity model, while the fracture gradient is generated from the Christmas correlation. Now, the Christmas correlation, one of the fracture gradient correlations, takes into cognizance the availability of water, which reduces the compaction of the fracture gradient. There's an expected pressure ramp which is supposed to be at 1947. So at 1947 TVDSS, and that is why we'll be casing off at 1850 prior to drilling that to that ramp with the 12 and quarter inch hole section. So to your right is the well planned and the casing joints placed in the design software. So this is the rig as it will be positioned on the location. Again, it has the RKB of about 28.04 meters, and while the seabed while the water depth is expected to be about around 30 meters. This is how we expect the rig to be with all elevations in place when positioned. So moving straight into the drilling operations of the well, the first plan is to drill the shallow gas pilot hole. Now, that shallow gas pilot hole we're gonna use it to de-risk the potential of having shallow gas hydrocarbons in that environment. The plan is to drill it to about 1350 meters because we'll be drilling the surface hole section to 1250 meters. So when we go to 1350, I mean, of course, when you go to a deeper depth, there's no possibility of encountering shallow gas at about 1250. We'll just be scaling the rig center to about 20 meters off the expected center of the well, drill that shallow gas pilot hole before we skate back the rig to the well center. The operational risk, I like mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that will be paying attention to situations. Failure of the ROV is one of the main ones. Non-verticality of the whole section is another big one, and having encountering shallow gas is, I think, the biggest risk here. And we have all mitigations in place to ensure that if any of this risk is encountered, we will be curbing them as required. After we do that, we're going to be jetting the conductor in place. Now, jetting the conductor in place entails making up the cam actuated drill ahead tool to the conductor, which is going to have the 26-inch bit, so that when we jet the conductor on bottom, allow the conductor to soak. The word soak means allow the sediment to sediment in the annulus, creating the required mew, that's the required skin, to ensure that the hydrocarbon, the conductor casing is sitting in place. After that is done, we'll now drill the 26-inch hole. Now, this is a smart way of doing it. I've been on operations where we'll first drill the We would first drill a 36-inch hole before running a 30-inch casing. For a 36-inch conductor, we might drill a 26-inch hole, then use a 42-inch opener so that we can run the 36-inch conductor. But because of how very uncompacted those zones are and the possibility of having big vogs in that area, this is the smarter option. It's the formation is still very soft. Jet it through, set your conductor, drill the surface hole section. The operational risk we expect to have in this area, non-verticality, because of course we are 830 meters from the seabed. Soil strength is very poor. The hole will definitely be overgauged, and I mean, there's a slim chance of still encountering shallow gas, but it's pretty much been de-risked. Um, Moving up to the next whole section. So once we get the conductor in place, the conductor is going to be having the low pressure lead housing. Then we will now drill the 26-inch hole. The 26-inch hole is going to be going all the way to 1,250 meters. And once we get there, we will run the 20-inch casing and cement it to surface. Now, what are the risks that we can encounter drilling this particular whole section? We could lose the ROV telemetry. The ROV is the remote operated vehicle. That's our eyes on the seabed. What are other risks? We could lose the tool. I mean, the tool could fail. We could wash out the this very shallow shoe here. This is at 925 meters. So it's very important that while we are drilling, when we commence drilling at this depth, we will flow at very low rates, but good enough to be able to clean the well bore as well. Um, so once that is done on this 20-inch conductor, it will be carrying the high pressure wellhead housing. Once that is done, we'll run the BOPs in place and have it on top of the nipple on top of the high pressure wellhead housing. This is a very, very critical operation because you need to have this barrier in place before drilling ahead. What are the things that could go wrong? We could drop the BOP. Ladies and gentlemen, I have seen this happen. It's actually on my second hitch as a well site engineer. I was just getting to the rig, and next thing I felt the rig heave. It was on a semi-submersible, and when I felt the rig heave, we all rushed out trying to find out what happened. We saw people screaming that they had dropped the BOP. What happened? The H4 connector latching from the bottom of the BOP to, I mean, from the first riser to the top of the BOP. While they were running it down, there was a seal failure, and it released the H4 connector and dropped the BOP to the bottom of the seabed. Now, the big risk there is we had a lot of winches holding on to the BOP while we're lowering it down on bottom. They started snapping, and we saw pistons and connecting rods flying all over the place. That could have hit somebody and would have recorded a fatality or even fatalities on that well. But we're lucky nothing happened. We eventually fished out the BOP from the seabed, got it all running, but it took us about 30 to 35 days to get us back on track. Um, there could be leakages while running on down on bottom, issues with man riding, failure of equipment. So before we go ahead with this operation, you must be ensured that all equipment associated to this operation is properly checked and ensured that they are good to go. So once we run the BOP in place, the next thing is to drill the 17.5-inch hole section. And we're going all the way to 1850, just before the ramp expected at 1947. So we're going to be drilling this hole. It's a vertical hole. What are the things that could come up? We don't expect to go through any hydrocarbons here. But ladies and gentlemen, as you noticed, we still have geopressures here. It's an exploration well. What if the uncertainties are so large that you encounter the reservoirs before the prognosed depth? So we still have it in there and we watch as required. What are the other possibility? What are the other risks? The Not getting the casing on bottom after drilling, because we might have some cuttings fall to the seam. So we'll definitely try to circulate the well and clean it as required. And there could be issues with swelling clays. The clays are young; they could take in water and begin to swell. But the good thing is that this section will be drilling with all base mud, so having all base mud in the system will kind of curb that risk. Differential sticking, if we have too much of overbalance, that can happen. But having a vertical well and not having the BHA on the low side kind of curbs that risk, and ensuring that the BHA moves all the time is going to help with delivering this well and not having any stock pipe while drilling this well. Wellbore stability issues due to faults, another potential risk. A couple of faults were prognosed on this particular well while were planning it. So we're going to keep our eyes open for potential losses and issues, other increases in friction, increases in reactive torque on the BHA, things that can happen when we are drilling. We're also going to be watching the cuttings coming up to surface, ensuring that they are normal bit cuttings, nothing splintery. Anything splintery tells you, of course, you're expecting a ramp, and we're going to be watching everything associated to drilling this well. Now, drilling an exploration well, all your input parameters have to be constant, so that if there are any changes, you know that something is awry and you can react accordingly. I just thought to add that. Then once that is done, the final section we're going to be drilling to 2400, and that's about circa 200 feet below the last reservoir. The plan is to have a logging sump so that we can evaluate the two sands after we penetrate them. What are the risks that we can encounter? Losses while penetrating the reservoirs. We could lose fail the tools could fail. We have overpressure, and this can come as a result of the geologist, or rather the subsurface team, under predicting the formation pressures. If they are higher, if we encounter them higher than we expect, and it's larger than the hydrostatic of the body in the well, we have a kick. So we're going to be drilling this well with our eyes on the ball, watching out for connection gases, watching out for drilling breaks, everything that we need to look out for in the event that the sands are overpressured. We're going to looking out for them, and once we catch any of them, we will perform the necessary flow check, and if it's positive, we're going to be shutting in the well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just thought to run through this so that we have a feel of what drilling a subsea well like it is like. It is similar to drilling a land well, but with a little bit of variation. The BOP equipment is completely different. I'll be showing you pictures on subsequent subsequent training slides. The mode of drilling is pretty much the same, but because we are in deep water, we pretty much have water above us. The mode of drilling, there are a couple of changes, but it's true they are all wells. And moving into the next presentation, we'll see those major differences and why we handle subsea wells like babies, why we handle subsea wells very carefully like babies. Thank you very much once again for listening. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment so that when we have more updates, you can, once you subscribe, but we have more updates, you can go ahead and, you can get those updates without even going to the channel to check. Thanks once again for listening. Have a good day.